is Preetham Sunkavalli. I am a DGM with the brand team at Godrej Consumer Products. And in my day job, I work with brands like Godrej Air, Park Avenue, and our latest launch, Godrej Spic, which is just flying off the shelves. So I request you guys also to consider these products and help me hit my targets. But when I'm not doing that, I like to help out the Godrej Consumer Products DEI team, and I'm also a friend of the DEI lab. So that's what I do. And one thing is that I've taken an interest in cricket recently, which is quite unique for me because I've not been into sports much. But incredible things have been happening in cricket in the last month. So we all know that the Indian women's team won the World Cup right here in Mumbai. Yeah, cheers for them. But what we may not know, what many of us may not know, maybe some of us considering this space, is that last Sunday in Colombo, the Indian blind cricket team won the first ever T20 Blind World Cup. So again, some of us would have thought that cricket is a very visual game, but this never stopped athletes with disabilities. They innovated. They created a ball with ball bearings inside which makes sound. Maybe some of the equipment was different, maybe some of the SOPs were modified, but the spirit is exactly the same. They still go out there and win World Cups. So in that same spirit, we are here today for the Employability Summit. The thing is, when most of us think disability, we think of the impairment. But over the next 1.5 hours or so, we'll show you what happens when you think of dismantling barriers. And we've picked a very interesting function to do this in, manufacturing, a function that has always historically been dominated by able-bodied men. So we can't wait to show you what's in store. And in terms of what Godrej Consumer Products does, in line with the vision of our chairperson of Islands of Inclusion, we do some incredible work, especially across our lighthouse plants in Gwalior and Changalpattu. I would now invite Sumit Mitra, Head of Group HR, Godrej Industries Group, to take us through Godrej's perspective on inclusion. This will be followed by a fireside chat between Sumit and Ira Singhal, Deputy Secretary, Division of Inclusive Education, School Education and Literacy Department, Ministry of Education, Government of India.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Employability Summit. I think we heard a lot from that video and what some of my colleagues sort of spoke here. But we firmly believe that this, and there are many other causes like inclusion, like sustainability, like digital today, like AI, where no one organization can make a difference. And I think we believe that these differences can happen only when all of us come together. And I had a couple of my industry colleagues from Tata Motors and Nestle, and we were just chatting, saying that is it competition or not competition? But we say that we would open our arms, especially to learn on this, irrespective of where people come from. And I think that's the spirit in which hopefully we have gathered today. We talked about this whole journey on sustainability and the whole journey on inclusion for Godrej. And we saw some numbers today at a group or at a Godrej group across 6 of our businesses. We have reached about 1% employees who are part of the people with disability cohort. But I think the journey here on inclusion has a greater meaning. And very often we are asked, saying that, is inclusion a part of your strategy? Is inclusion a part of your purpose? And we say very, very much. Our purpose today stands for people and planet alongside profit. And when we talk about people, what becomes very, very important is the way we look at differentiating the Godrej employer brand, which is why should people join Godrej and why should people stay with Godrej? And our employer brand is broadly broken into 3 parts. There is something that we call as tough love. That is, we demand performance and we support people on that. There's something called whole self, which is really we value people because of who they are and not because of the degrees and the expertise that they bring, but also as human beings and the individuals they are. And the third part is what we call as your canvas, saying that You don't have to go with your job description. You can do beyond, and you can move across the group and create careers. But when we talk about whole self, and this is clearly where the linkage of what we do in inclusion and with our purpose and the larger being of being Godrej means, we believe that we need to coexist, and people with different backgrounds, when they come together, create magic. And it's it's not easy as it sounds, and I think we have struggled through some of it. I think one of our first experiments with whole self is, when I joined many years back, to say that, can you have young managers rub shoulders with people who are 50, 55, and can they be accepted, right? It started from there. To say that, can you have women in workforce, and can women be, in senior management? And obviously then we have moved through with LGBTQI, and now we are seeing green shoots of people with disability. When we look at this, I believe that from my learnings, I think few things are very important. I think one is sponsorship. And I don't think these journeys are possible unless senior leadership stands up and say, this is important, because sometimes when you do that, you have to make choices. It's very easy for me to go and recruit 50 people, all able-bodied men, into a factory. Believe me, it is difficult to find women or people with disability, and it may take time. The organization and the management will need to step in to say that it's okay, take your time, we will support you through your successes and failures. So I think sponsorship becomes extremely important. I think role modeling becomes extremely important, and I think as we have moved across some of these journeys, we have always been lucky to have role models in our organization. When we started our with LGBTQI journey, we were lucky to have someone like a Parmesh here. And to me, I think, this whole Chengalpattu factory and what's happened with that is possibly a role model for about 100 other manufacturing locations in different Godrej companies to stand up and say it's possible, right? And thirdly, I think it is a learning journey, and there will be points of failures, and resilience through those points of failures are extremely important. So with this, I want to sort of invite Ira here. I don't think we would have had someone as relevant as her to come and join me in this fireside chat. So, I was just, I was a bystander when Ira was having lunch and talking to people. And she talked about her journey in Arunachal to being a part of bureaucracy and decision making at the center. So maybe Ira, tell me a little bit and tell us a little bit about that journey, because very often when we think of people with disability or from the minority communities, you feel that you've not done the difficult work and you've just landed up, because of where you come from. So your experiences.
Yeah, I've done a lot of theater, so I could have yelled loud enough. But so I think the story, so just to give you a background context, I'm a computer engineer and then an MBA. And I worked in the corporate sector as a strategy manager with Cadbury right here in Bombay. Before I quit and I sat for civil services, and that's a whole story of its own. And I currently work in the IAS. And the story that he's referring to was me talking about handling elections in an insurgency district in Arunachal Pradesh. It's a border district, and we had NSCN, which is one of the most ferocious insurgent groups in the world. It's amongst the three top in terms of killings. And right before I had gotten posted there, one of the MLA candidates had been gunned down in the market, and the district is historically supposed to be quite a violent district, and it's quite active, especially during elections, because elections kind of candidates would, be sponsored or aligned in a way, or the insurgent fractions would sort of, try to control the voting patterns and the way people functioned in that society. So, and I have to tell you, in the history of the district, the elections that I conducted were the most peaceful. We had zero violence. We had no, I would have kidnappings at night, and instantly we would take action. We would, there would be villages that were being held at gunpoint, and we would instantly make sure to handle the situation. We had a couple of kidnappings that we managed to get released in a couple of 3 hours at max. They would have normally led to actual fatalities where normally the trend was that there would be firings and there would be killings. But we managed to have the most peaceful election, and I bound down all the MLAs. I don't know if you know what bind down means. I hope you don't, because not a nice thing to really know. But I took instant action, and nobody expected that a person with disability would be able to handle a district like that, which was historically infamous, especially for election time. My district would shut down at 6 as soon as it got dark. So people would be in their houses. By the way, there were no hotels, there were no restaurants, there was no tourism. The route to the district was through a jungle, and it was an elephant route. So every day it would get cut off because there would be elephants on the route, and you couldn't have cars. There was no Pakka road. It was, I think, 45 minutes through a dense forest where you had to travel to reach the district. So quite an interesting experience. And we, like I said, we had the fastest counting, the most peaceful election in the history. So I think the perception, and most people didn't expect. So that was one of the comments that I got. In fact, unfortunately, when the hilly states are a lot less hospitable to people with disabilities, because generally people are extremely fit there. In most hilly states, just to survive, you need to be extremely fit because everything is a climb. All the houses, everything is constantly a climb. So people are a lot more fit, and hence the understanding of disability is a lot less than anywhere else. So they're not very hospitable. So in that kind of a state, they definitely did not think, they would not give opportunities to people with disabilities, and especially a girl with disabilities. So yeah, that was quite an interesting experience, not just for me, but for everybody else as well.
No, thanks for sharing this, and it's quite incredible. There are many of us who come from minority backgrounds, and very often, when we sort of hit the mainstream, it's like there's this little bit of self-doubt, how can I do it? I think as you started your career, any advice you would have for young career startups, or even some of us who are in our mid-careers, to say that how should we be? How do you get over our own self-doubt and self-belief?
I think the biggest problem is we're too busy listening to everybody else's opinion of who we are. We're constantly worried about what other people will think, and that's something that comes to us culturally through our own families. Because India mein har bacche ka career is decided by what padosis will like you for. For women it is how is it most convenient for you to be married off? What will your in-laws like the most? So for a woman, her whole life is defined by that. And for men, it is what is the thing that inherently it's the dowry element. What is your market estimate, like your market prestige and your market valuation that decides your careers. Unfortunately, we are never given that time to really think for ourselves. So if you can take a break, and if you can for a minute forget that the world exists, think about what you are actually good at, what you like doing, and where you want yourself, where you find your own happiness. If you can cut out that noise, I think we'll all land into careers where we not just perform brilliantly, but we're also extremely happy and satisfied. So my one piece of advice is, try asking yourself in every moment, why am I doing this? Why did I decide to do this? And what am I aiming to get out of it? So if you counter yourself at every point, okay, my first why, because people will like me. Okay, why do I need people to like me? Ask that question, answer that, then answer the next point that you reach. So if you go down to it, at the end you will reach a place where you will realize that all the thought processes that you had don't matter. And that's, by the way, one of the biggest reasons why we are actually not ready to include people of all types. Because we have these inherent fears which we're not ready to question. We all believe certain things which have been given to us by the fears of the society. But, inherently, Indians in specific, and humanity in general, is fear-based. We live our lives according to fear. We are risk averse, we are scared of the unknown, because we don't know if we can handle it, but we never ask ourselves, is this really something I should be scared of? Why am I scared of this? Can I not handle this in the end? If you kind of question yourself down the channel to that, you will realize whether it was right for you to feel that way or not. And if you reach a point where you think it's right, go ahead. Go ahead. You know, so for example, my dad, so I wanted to be a doctor. And this was actually one of the discussions I was having with Preetham. I didn't mention this, but this was something that happened to me as well. So I wanted to be a doctor. And my dad did not let me take biology in class 11th because his argument was, you look like a patient, nobody's coming to you for treatment. खुद तो पेशेंट जैसी दिखती हो, तुमसे कौन इलाज करवाएगा? He sent me into engineering, which by the way I am horrible at. So I got out of it as soon as I could. I got into management and did that, and then came to civil services. But if I question that, was he right? He was actually. Because if I look at it very honestly, I would not go to someone like me for treatment. So he was right, and I would not perform at my best as a doctor. You know, because it would not be fair to my patients as well. So it's not about, just your interest is your choice. It's actually questioning yourself and deciding whether that was the right thing or a wrong thing. But had he told me that don't get into civil services because you'll not be good at it, that is something that would have been wrong in that moment, right? So not everything is good, right or wrong. You just have to question it down the drain, down the channel, and reach to the point where you can be a rational person on that.
No, I really loved and resonated with the piece of passion. And just to counter yourself, one of the doctors I've had the privilege to meet is Dr. Advani, who's a famous oncologist. And I had to, unfortunately, take my father, and he's paralyzed hip down. And the moment his wheelchair walks in, hundreds of patients would just, stand up and bow to him. So that's the kind of power, irrespective of the backgrounds you come from or the ability you have. I think that can get demonstrated. And you've seen the space of both government and private sector evolving over the last 15, 18 years. And a lot of, fire comes from within, but also the enablers are important.
Yes.
So your thoughts on how you've seen both the government policies and private sector evolve, and I'll ask the second question to say that what can be done more.
So I'm one of the rare cases where, just to give you this thing, I was actually very readily accepted by the corporate sector. And this was 17, 18 years ago. I got placed from my campus into the corporate sector as a strategy manager, like I said. But then when I decided to give civil services exam, I was actually rejected 3 times because of my disability. So I had to actually go to court to get my role into the civil services, which I then ended up topping. The point is, for me in particular, thank you. For me in particular, the journey has been a little upside down. So when it comes to profit motive, we automatically assume that I want to get the best person for this role, and hence we're so scared of who the best person will be that we stick to safe choices. We stick to choices which we have traditionally known to have worked. Government, on the other hand, has a mandate to promote all kinds of people, and that is why we have reservations. In a way, that's also to show the society that people of all abilities, all backgrounds, all types can do those roles. So that's where, am I really fast? I'm sorry. I'm super fast when I talk, so I'm so sorry. So in government, there is a mandate to actually include all sorts of people and to give opportunities. And I think that's been a brilliant way of getting a lot of people from all kinds of backgrounds into the system. I'm extremely lucky. I come from a relatively better, more economically sound background, which is where I could get to an MBA school, and I could, and I was lucky in terms of the parents that I had, that I was never told what is my disability and hence what I can't do. It was mostly a conversation about what you can do. So in my household, the conversation was always different. So I was lucky I was not pulled down and I was not pressurized by what the world thought of me. But that's not the case for everybody. And so for most of those people, that opportunity that the government has been giving becomes a huge thing. One, people with disability themselves are very scared of how they will cope into the corporate sector. And then again, the corporate sector has also been very, scared of how they would perform and the kind of changes they would need to do. So, the way they would have to change their organization structures, the way they would have to change their processes, all of that, that hesitation. But I will say this, in the last 10 years, there's been a massive change. I mean, just the fact that we're having this event tells you that. We did not have events like this 10 years ago. So, there were very few people willing to take on persons with disability and actually give them that chance. So, I think huge strides have been made in the corporate sector, and no matter what the government does, it's actually the corporate sector who will define how people with disabilities are accepted into the society. Because everybody knows government mein to mandate hai, ho jata hai. When you're working in the corporate, that's when you know what your real worth is. So even from the perspective of actually enabling people with disabilities to live better lives, it's when the corporate sector starts accepting them. So that's a huge change that has been coming in, and people like me who've kind of seen this happen, we're very glad that we see a lot more conversation, a lot more actual action on the ground, which was never the case 10 years ago.
And what do you think government and corporate sector should do further? I do agree that the journey has started.
So I think one problem which the corporate cannot solve, which the government has to, is actually the right kind of education and skill training. That's something that's unfortunately still been not that pervasive. Only those of us who come from those kind of families who could afford, transport systems in particular, or accessible assistive devices, who could get those kind of educations which get people into the high quality roles as well. But once we solve the education bit, once we solve people coming into the colleges, into the regular classrooms, and that's actually what my role currently is, to get every child into the same classroom. Once we solve that, I think we wouldn't need to work so hard on the other inclusion bit. Because if you're picking your candidate from a particular classroom, you will then pick every person in that classroom becomes your pool. Right now, your pool is not that big. The people that you need to pick also come from a very small group. So even like you were mentioning, right, that you have to actively go hunting for people with disabilities. It doesn't happen that easily. And that's a problem that comes from that's the problem that government needs to work on. To make sure that all those people with disabilities are trained according to their abilities. And I really mean according to their abilities and not their disabilities. Because our focus is automatically on the things that they don't have, that we keep trying to give them that thing instead of the thing that they do have, and focus on that and build that up. This is something that I always say, and this is a normal human mentality, happens to everybody. If you're at 50 in one and you're at 10 in the other, what you would normally do is keep working at the thing you're in 10 at, right? You have the effort available of 40. So what you do is you put that 40 ka effort in the thing that you're at 10. Because you're so ashamed of that thing that you will keep doing that. But had you put that 40 effort at the thing you were at 50, you would be 90 at that, and nobody would remember your 10. Nobody would ever think of your 10. So that's the way we need to structure this. And that I think is where the responsibility of government comes in. And the minute we create those 90s, I think it will be a lot easier for the corporate sector to even hire those people. Because I don't think anybody should hire people if they are not able to give you the output that you really need. Because as a country, we also need to grow economically. And an organization needs to grow. But then the automatic assumption of someone's ability, that's where the problem is. So what the corporate sector needs to do is to look for what those people are at 90 in and hire them for that, instead of seeing the thing that they're at 10. Because that's what everybody has been doing. The whole society, parents, the persons themselves, everybody keeps looking at that 10. Nobody finds that 90. So if you do that, focus on that, if you work towards that, everybody's happy. So I think that's where we need to build.
And I couldn't resonate more than what you said on this. And being practicing managers, and probably the last question, Ira, before we move to the panel. I think we keep hearing, where is the talent? Disability is NGO work. It is expensive to hire people with disability. There's a performance gap. So while these developments are happening and will take its own time, how do practicing managers counter such questions and doubts that keep coming up as we push for inclusion in various spaces?
I think the one thing is not hiding from the questions and actually addressing them. So I'll tell you, I'm also actually the person who hired the first transgender person full-time in a government office. And how I did that is I got my whole office staff. I got everybody from the office into a room and I said, ask the stupidest things that you think and ask all your prejudices. And they were all very hesitant. But what I did was I answered those prejudices. I said, this is what you think, that this is what they will do, or this is some professions that been a part of, and this is how they are. And no, this is not true. And then I made those people from the community answer those questions. And what I think you need to do as managers is actually have those honest conversations, address the fears, and don't shy away from that. And let's not be politically correct. Because when you're trying to be politically correct in these things, those actual fears and doubts and hesitations stay inside. They don't go away. They only go away when we address them, because when you address them, you also try to find a solution to them. When you talk about it, when you say, okay, I think a person who's on a wheelchair will not be able to come to office in time, then so their productivity will be low. Okay, how do we solve this? Can we make that person do roles where they can work from home? Can we have them come into office maybe 2 days? Can we have a vehicle which picks them up and drops them? So there are ways which are not expensive, which you can figure out, but you will need to actually address those dirty linens. So.
No, and I completely believe that without experimentations, you won't make this journey. You may try 5 or 10 things, but you need to try.
Yes,
And maybe
yes.
some will succeed and some may fail. Well, thanks a lot, Ira, for this very candid conversation. And before I hand over, maybe if there are any questions, we can take a couple before we move on.
Hi.
Hi.
It was wonderful talking to you, and you have done a lot as far as cruising through this journey. In between, one point just I wanted to add. I understand about the development of the infrastructure, education, etc., etc. But changing the mentality of the society as well as person with disability vis-a-vis. Like when it comes to person with disability, they are afraid we will be
Yes.
accepted or
Yes.
not.
Yes.
And as far as community or the society is concerned, they are awkward when a
Yes.
presence of a person with disability
Yes,
is there.
absolutely.
So both the ways, I just want to add one point over here, that till the time there is a moral upliftment, moral values upliftment.
No, it
in
will
the-
not come from moral values. It will come from having everybody in the same space. I'll give you an example. If an elephant walks into this room, will not all of us turn around and look at it?
Of course,
Yes? Why?
it's big, it's
No.
different.
It's because we're not used to having an elephant every day here.
So it is different, that's what I mean to say.
Yeah, so if I have an elephant coming in every day and sitting here, none of us will turn around. We will not bat an eyelid. It's simply that. So the minute you have accessible schools, the minute you have inclusive classrooms, and it all starts in childhood. It all starts in childhood. The minute you have a classroom where there was a blind kid and there was a hearing disabled kid and there was a kid on a wheelchair, nobody in the class will grow up to be a person who's, not comfortable with those people around them.
So that also means that we need that strong hunt.
Yes.
That we bring out those people from the room, from their
Um,
four walls.
No,
and
it's not.
bring them
So
regularly.
I'll tell you where the problem has been. It's been in the mindset of the educators. Okay, that's where the problem has been. Thankfully, the problem is no more in the mindset of the parents. It's more in the mindset of the educators, and that's something that we're trying to change. In fact, the whole system is geared towards changing that. So hopefully, another 10 years, this will not be an issue we'll need to discuss.
No, and I strongly believe that the future should hold a lot of these things in the right state, given the journey that we have had. And I think let's stop here, Ira. I think looking forward to the next panel.
Yes,
But
thank you so much.
she's around, and I think do feel free to interact with her and learn on her incredible journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumit and Ira. That was a very insightful conversation. And Ira, especially, thank you so much for so candidly sharing your journey. We would now like to present a token of our appreciation. All right. So Ira shared about the public sector and about education, which was very interesting. But the next panel that we have is going to be more from a corporate perspective. It's going to be about inclusion from the lens of strategy, operations, and change management. I'm very excited about this panel, and to lead it, I'd like to invite our very own Sandhya Ramesh, Global Head of DEI, Godrej Consumer Products.
Hello? Okay, fab. Thank you, Preetham and Sumit and Ira. What a wonderful conversation. Thank you for kind of just setting that frame. Because while we continue to do some of the work at the organizational level, it always helps to say, where that can be co-created, at a policy level as well. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. And I'm so happy to invite a set of leaders who really walked the talk, made it happen, not once, but have committed to integrating it in many ways into the DNA of how they conceptualize and visualize manufacturing. Please join me in welcoming on stage Aditi Gupta, Head of HR at Tata Motors, Pune. Tapan Bhatt, Factory Manager from Nestle, India. Vineet Saraiwala, who we call also our Sutradar, who tried to kind of make it all happen within our organizations, founder and CEO of Atypical Advantage. And Saurabh Jhavar, Head of PSO, India and SAARC from Godrej Consumer Products. Can we have a big round of applause? Yes. Thank you, thank you. I also thought maybe it'll help to set up a little bit of a Menti poll. So just requesting if we can have the Menti screen up. We're going to be doing a few polls through this conversation, and anyone who requires assistance, please just raise your hand and we'll have a volunteer come up and help you. Yeah? So with that, and while we set up that QR code, I thought, quick context, we know, we've been kind of talking about it. It's been fairly known that disability employment today requires humongous effort and also a great opportunity, right, for progress. And when we look at sectoral patterns, we see a lot more representation of persons with disabilities, in the IT, ITS, BPO, which leaves manufacturing a bit out of the, of the ecosystem because it's such a large contributor to employment, in our country, right? So the question for all of us is, firstly, why is this journey important for us in manufacturing within, the India manufacturing community? And two, how can we kind of create shifts that are less individualistic, right? And we'll hear from all the three journeys, we will find some similarities. So more isolated in nature to more systemic, right? But before we hit the panel and before I come to Saurabh with the first question, I thought maybe we can do a quick poll, right, among the audience today to say really what is, and if we can have the poll slide up, please. Yeah, what truly moves disability inclusion within our organizations, right? What do we believe truly moves disability inclusion? One, government mandates that we feel will kind of set the pace for progress. Two, having self-inspired leaders, like a few that we see here on stage today, to inspire others to follow. Three, when we link our inclusion goals to performance goals in organizations. Or four, building a business case for disability inclusion. So we'll probably see this piece come up and we'll keep looking at the results. While I go over to Saurabh and have Saurabh maybe respond to that. So Saurabh, we've had an interesting journey at GCPL, which we also kind of summarized. What do you think works better, self-inspired or mandated goals? Without looking at the poll at the back.
Actually, I was also split between the two, which has won the highest votes, to be honest, which is you need self-inspired leaders and workers in the organization. And equally, if the inclusion can be as part of something which is driving the business benefit also, which is what has truly happened at GCPL, and I'll speak about that a little later. Both are possibly the most important and both have won equal shares almost. So that's great.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how this got balanced at GCPL when you began the journey, Saurabh, for GCPL through Chengalpattu.
So I think it started with some bit of personal passion, and this is something that I go several years ago, maybe some 5-6 years ago. We as Godrej that time had a lot of focus on women inclusion, on LGBTQIA inclusion. But at that point in time, maybe 7-8 years ago, close to negligible focus on making this an inclusive place for people with disabilities. And somehow I had that personal passion in childhood. One of my friends was a person with disability, and I want to kind of figure out, is there some way I can contribute? And that's when I think I had spoken to Sumit that, Sumit, if at any point in time we want to make this as an important agenda, then I would love to be part of the core team. It was just a thought at that point in time. And then several years ago, actually God gave the opportunity of let's say putting in my plates and some of my colleagues who are sitting here, Jagdish and some of the other colleagues, an opportunity to set up 2 new factories for GCPL. And when that opportunity came, this thought rekindled that, is this an opportunity for us to provide equitable environment and infrastructure for people with disabilities also to be hired at these factories? And that's when the thought rekindled. But now, even till now, it was a thought. It was a wish. It was something that is good to have. When it truly converted into a passion or a mission, actually, is when, honestly, for our new factory in Chennai or Chengalpattu, we were having negotiations with the government of Tamil Nadu. And we as Godrej had gone to them saying that we are setting up this factory for you. It's a public figure. I can share roughly 500 crore of investment that we were making at that place. And for Tamil Nadu, 500 crore investment is a small investment. It's a very industrialized state. And the government officers over there tell me, yeah, what's so big deal about 500 crore? Eh? We have proposals for 5,000 crore, 10,000 crore. So in a way, you want to set it up. We will not give you any special incentives. So then he was pushing us that, what do you bring to the state? Tell us something special about it. And thankfully, till such time with some of our excellent colleagues from DEI lab, we had some homework, and that's when it was like a aha or Edison moment that I told him that what we bring special to the table is this factory will be an equitable factory. So then his eyes got a little bright. He said, what do you mean by that? I said, we will hire women in this factory. We will hire people with disabilities. We will hire LGBTQ in these factories. He said, can you make some commitments? And these are real conversations, right? I was there in the meeting, and the government officer who was senior IS officer was also there in the meeting. And he said, can you make some commitments? And honestly speaking, knowing the Godrej culture and knowing the focus on this, I didn't have to come out of the room and ask this question to Nisaba Godrej or to Sudhir Sitapati or any other senior, or Sumit Mitra or any other senior person in the company to say, can I make a commitment or not? In the meeting, I actually did a quick Google search. I got some good figures, and some of the homework was done by our team members in the past. And I understood that India has roughly 2.5% people with disabilities, right? LGBTQ, I was confident that we anyway have a high focus and we will be able to get the people on board. And in the meeting, I said, we commit to hire minimum 50% women and minimum 5% people with disabilities in LGBTQ committee in the meeting. The IS officer then said, okay, give me 10 minutes. So he then discussed with his team. He said, I will present your case to the government. We'll come back to the incentive plan. From my level, this is the incentive we can offer you to set up a factory in Tamil Nadu. It was sealed that time itself. So it was an excellent example of a business benefit also coming into GCPL while making some commitment which is good for the society. And that was like a aha moment for me also.
Thank you. Thanks, Saurabh. And and it's been an interesting journey there on, right? Like, it's not stopped at 2.5, we're closer to about 6% right
Yeah.
now. So I think it's been an inspiring journey. And that's something that we heard about, maybe a greenfield being set up, an opportunity, right? And some of the things that we commonly see as barriers to be able to hire persons with disabilities in mainstream manufacturing is when you look at infra, safety, accessibility, of factories that could even be about a century old, right? And Aditi, I'm going to come to you with that question. Um, how did you all manage to do this? How did you manage to implement disability inclusion across the 3 plants that you did that were already existing? And what have been some key learnings from there?
Yeah, so thank you, Sandhya, for that question. And I think right after speaking after a new plant setup, it's very apt to speak about a very old plant. So I represent Tata Motors Pune plant, which is close to 70 years old, right in the city of Pune. So yeah, so it is definitely a challenge when we think about a topic of inclusion and hiring people with differently abled uh, people. So here actually it all started from from our top. And as you know, Tata values, we are always thinking about giving back to the society. So it was more, Tata Group was always working towards, towards society, towards various CSR initiatives. But what also came in from our top management saying that why not you people think about something to hire PWDs. And there, this was not a mandate, not at all. This was not a target for any of our plants. But we took as a challenge, and we started the first as a pilot batch last year by hiring a batch of 40 hearing impaired in directly on our shop floor, and that was on our lines. So always, before starting anything like this, a new initiative, everybody thinks that our infrastructure should be in a way that there should be ramps, there should be washrooms, which should be there, and various other things which are there. And we always think, I have a plant which is 600 acres, huge plant, and there changing the entire plant is very, very difficult. It is extremely difficult. So what we started was doing it in pockets. So we said this is the area where we are going to, or this line they are going to work. So why don't we try to bring in all these facilities only in that area? Because it's not possible to change the entire plant or to change the entire infrastructure. So as we talked, we started with baby steps. We said we will do these necessary changes only in this area. And when we talk about manufacturing lines, there's a lot of safety norms. Uh, they should be able to hear the siren when there's evacuation or these things like this. So we did those changes in those lines. We made those lines foolproof through various implementation of safety POKAYOKs and S1, S2, S3 controls. So there are various safety controls which were put in place. And we made firstly that line as a green channel where all these safety things are implemented, and then we, put them on board there. Of course, we spent longer time in their training. Normally, the time which we spend is 3 months. In this case, we spent double the time. There's 6 months of training. We through sign languages. Of course, our trainers also don't know that language. So through the sign language trainer help, we also trained our managers how to interact with them. So again, we cannot train all our people, 10,000 people in the factory, but we trained those managers where these people are going to be deployed. So it was done in pockets, and we hired another batch this year. And after this pilot batch, which was done in Pune plant, all our plants, Jamshedpur, Sanand, Pantnagar, Lucknow, different abilities people have been hired. And we are very happy that we were the pilot plant and successfully we have been able to launch. And we are proud that they are not in any of the office areas. They are working directly on the lines, making products, and the trucks which are running on the roads are manufactured by them. Some parts of that, yeah.
Yeah. No, so amazing. So amazing. And while we hear about this journey in existing plants, it's also such a common thought and narrative that we have, right? Just last week, between Saurabh and I, we were looking at where are the roles of, where, our persons with disabilities on the shop floor have been deployed, what kind of roles, is there a way, where is the opportunity to integrate? So it's so wonderful to see these narratives continuing through different organizations. And then, Vineet, I'd like to come to you because you've had that, singular opportunity of seeing some of this work, across these three organizations and definitely a few more like Nivea and Micron, where you all do so much work in the space of manufacturing. So what do you think are, some of the business impact? I can't say business impact, but what do you think have been the journeys of these organizations in terms of what they've been able to see while and after integrating persons with disabilities?
No, I think I would say that most of the conversations when a lot of companies come to us and they say, like, for example, when Micron came to us saying that even people, non-disabled people are facing difficulty into doing chip making in India because talent is not there. What makes you think that people with disabilities can do that? And same way for so many other corporates. And I'm like here, I remember like when we were initiating conversations at the Nestle plant, Tapan said that, we'll have people with disabilities in front end roles, not the usual back end roles. So these were the kind of conversations. Initially, lot of doubt, lot of fear across all of the manufacturing plants. But what I would like to say that if you look at so many of the plants where people with disabilities are working, one, I think productivity is great. I think that's like, and we have measured some of the productivities when we were working with different companies. It is as equal or probably in a lot of cases even higher for people with disabilities. There's like the entire inclusion culture is there. Like, for example, I still remember we were trying to convince the Tata Motors union at Jamshedpur. And he said that, we have a person with hearing disability managing all our union affairs. So what are you telling me? We are already convinced as such. So if you look at it in purely in terms of ROI, productivity, as well as culture, I think it has delivered a lot for a lot of companies where people with disabilities are working, because this gives that entire plant a purpose, I would say. And again, mainstreaming happens in that ways, right? Like, we would initially think that plant people would not learn sign language. Most of the plants where we have been working, people, non-disabled people are learning sign language, which was even a surprise to me. Similarly, again, we are also testing like front-end roles. Look, companies are now getting more bolder, and like initially safety was one of the biggest concerns, but now companies are again being bolder to say that, hey, let's try people with disabilities in chip making or turbines or making trucks or making FMCG products, which was not the case 5 years before, I would say. So I think, yeah, as simple as productivity, culture, lower attrition, and I think a host of other benefits beyond it being the right thing to do.
Thanks, Vineet. And I think this whole element of trust, right, just foundationally, whether it's trust with the community, whether it's trust building with the families of persons with disabilities to say, hey, we are a safe space, whether it is physically safe or even psychologically, culturally a safe place. Building trust with our leadership team who've done manufacturing for decades, right? And have not probably known any other way of manufacturing. So trust is such an important component, Tapan, and I'm coming to you with this question. What were some practices that you had, whether it was with persons from the community, their families, your leadership team, that you felt helped establish establish this intent?
So good evening all and pleasure to be here. So I'll pick up from what Sumit and Aditi said. Uh, in school maths, we used to study LCM and HCF, right? The highest common factor. In all the three companies, the common factor is leadership commitment. It cannot happen without the mandate. Let's be clear about it. Second is, and when we say there is a leadership commitment, there is also a lot of support. So intent in the strategy. That's how I make the leadership commitment. When it comes to execution, it's all about ownership. My role was more as a catalyst to execute the things. In when I heard for the first time that okay, we have a plan and we are going to go ahead with people with different label. So we had a huge support from Atypical Advantage and our HR teams. So being into operations, you have a mental checklist, again coming for safety. And I took some time for myself that yes, I will do, but how will I do? So we had an intern and those few days where I was making up my mind how I will proceed ahead. That was one of the experience I did not want my team to have, my HOD's teams. So one Saturday we decided, okay, let's go for objective setting meeting offsite. So we went all there. My team reached before me because it was a get together outside. And they were all in anticipation that we'll be having objectives, we'll be having some consultant, and we'll be having some team building activities. I reached there 5 minutes late and told, okay, we are not going with this. Actually, just 5 minutes away, we have a blind school of association. We'll be going there and meeting people with disabilities. The reason why we choose this path was we wanted to have a minimum reaction time from knowing what is the purpose of the meeting to actually meet the people with disabilities and having a real-time feeling of what they go through. Once we did that meeting, then it became, that was an icebreaker moment for our team. Post that, we all came energized, committed, and then the actions follow. Coming to safety and the trust part, which you asked, during with the help of Atypical Advantage, we revised our interview patterns. We onboard the people with disabilities. We invited their parents to the factory because normally when you hear factory environment, again, people feel about safety. So their parents came, our parents also came, so that in local language they can talk about it and remove any fears. So that's how we started the journey.
Thank you. Thanks, Tapan. And I think that's what's also so unique about this journey, right? It's never about one person, one approach, one single right way to do it. It's just the ability to stay open, experiment, see what works for you, see what is needed at that point in time and step up, right? To be able to do the right thing. Aditi, I'm going to pick up a little bit further on safety, right? Because we know the kind of manufacturing processes that, you know, the Tata Motors, just in terms of passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles have, right? So if I had to go a little bit deeper into that, how is it that you all actually enhanced safety and also addressed just the mindsets around the fact that it may not be safe, given that it is a very, very complex and large process, manufacturing process?
Yeah, so I think in Tata Motors, safety is given the utmost importance, and the first thing which we always talk about, and here also I just saw that we started with a safety video. So it is always in the forefront, and definitely for these things, as I also shared earlier, we focused on making that particular line completely, with all safety norms to be implemented there. And also we have really worked on the infrastructure because we had old machines and old pattern of things. So we had to do a lot of infrastructure changes in that particular line. And also, we sensitized people about safety, and we have a very good safety culture model, which it's in the form of iceberg, and we try to imbibe in our employees, sensitizing them about safety. And especially for the PWDs, yes, we had to do that extra bit. We had to invest as an organization, making that area a green zone where, it, and thankfully we have not had a single incident with any of our PWDs, keeping my fingers crossed that in future also nothing like that ever comes. But yes, I can quote a incidents where, because I said that we had this hearing impaired, we have a batch. And just coming out of, our plant is an old plant and we have lot of trees inside. So coming out of the canteen, two of these fellows, they were walking after the lunch, and there was a big branch of a tree falling down behind them. And the people were shouting from far, please move away, and this they were not able to hear. So one fellow rushed, and pulled them away, and thankfully nothing happened. But we also realized, that what are these safety issues which can happen anytime. And one of the person who was nearby was not able to understand that this person cannot hear, because out of a batch of 10,000 people, if there are 40 people currently there, so not everybody knows that. So we have also changed the t-shirts which they wear. We have made a lot of signs so that people even from far off distance can identify. So every day is a learning, I would say. Every day we are learning and we are improving our processes. We are also trying to sensitize others as to how to take care of all our people. So yes, of course, we are doing, but I don't know whether it is enough, because it's a journey, it's a continuous journey. And in this journey, I think we are learning, and we would also love to learn from others. And that's the reason why we are also coming and sharing our experience, because everything like this we have learned from experience. There is nowhere it's written in the book what you should do to really, make the place a safe place. But every day we are learning, and hopefully, yeah, we will do better. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think nothing summarizes it better than inclusion is a journey. It's not like this one time you do it and you've gotten it right, right? Like just the importance of all of us to be open, to be aware. I think some of the feedback that we received from the local safety teams was that it's taking our existing safety practices to the next level for all, right? So that was definitely a good move. And like you said, just the ability to keep ourselves open to the fact that it's learning. It's, I think, a wonderful thing. Vineet, I'm coming to you and I'm going to, ask you something that sometimes we all get asked. And Ira was talking a little bit about, the economic benefit for an organization, right? And just like there could be in the case of able-bodied employees, right? There could be, we occasionally see lower performance sometimes, right? With colleagues from the community as well. In these kind of situations, what should guide decision making within an organization? I'm putting you on the spot, but yes.
No, I think, this conversation is not like it's a pretty old conversation, right? Like look at women, right? Like we can always argue that why are we even teaching women to drive or women to work in a factory or even work in finance, right? Women have proven all of this wrong, right? They can drive, they can, become whatever they want to become. In general, if Ira would have actually asked this question, she would have never topped the UPSC exam, right? Like the most competitive exam in the country, I would say. And that too all India rank 1. Uh, so, so that's one school of thought. I would say that, people with disabilities are also as good as anybody else. First of all, we should be clear that why are we doing this? We are not doing this to prove anything, right? Like women are not doing this nowadays to prove anything that they are good. Everyone knows that they are good, right? And we don't ask this question to men, right? That why are we even, getting them to drive or getting them to work? So same way for people with disabilities. And the catch here is, see, people with disabilities are also people. We are not trying to propagate that persons with disability would be like your highest performers in general. Like in any cohort, there could be people with disabilities who would not perform. But when it comes to a smaller cohort, and largely through statistics, the beauty of statistics, like Aditi mentioned about 40 people out of a group of 10,000 people. Imagine 4 people not working. That simply gets highlighted to the maximum degree, and suddenly you stereotype people with disabilities saying that all people with disabilities are performing poorly. But if you look at it purely from a people lens, right, that is bound to happen, right? There's nothing special, extra, or in general like a divine sense. Otherwise, companies would go for 100% hiring of people with disabilities, right? Because if that's the case. So definitely we should not stereotype even for people with disabilities. And purely coming to productivity and attrition questions, at least the plants where like so many of these manufacturing plants, and here my colleagues would agree that the attrition is pretty low, productivity is very high because a lot of other plants might not be accessible. So people with disabilities stick to the plant, try to learn and work up the ladder in most of these companies. The question is again, see, education and skilling is not equal for them. So a lot of companies have taken that extra bit. I remember like Nivea wanted to hire women with disability. They put in one criteria lower, which is standard 10 pass, and trained their workforce in machines. And that is why they were able to do that piece. And same way for, let's say, a Tata Motors and Nestle. And this is, if you look at the history of women, it actually follows a lot of things for people with disabilities. I remember in 80s and 90s, we needed to start training programs for women so that they can get into technical roles. Like there was not even a female washroom in a lot of places in manufacturing premises or even India's colleges. But things have changed, right? Now it's a accepted norm, and I hope that this norm would be true for people with disabilities 10 years down the line, where people will not ask about, this performance piece, and things being equal, obviously merit based is the right approach, but have those accessibility features, sensitize everybody, provide assistive tech, and if all of this is taken care, I'll agree with the meritocracy logic. But remember, people with disabilities are also people, so you will find all kinds of performances, some stellar, some poor. So let's not shy away from that question.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Vineet, because sometimes there is this, almost this principle saying that people with disabilities are going to bring some superpowers along, when you recruit them, right? So just the ability to say, hey, we're all individuals, take the pressure off. What we need to create is equitable access, good infrastructure, a supportive ecosystem, create that space. And at the end of the day, after that, if you're able to bring meritocracy into the conversation, it's going to be a lot more enabling, right, for organizations. And hopefully in a few years or a decade from now, we should be talking about the business case for able-bodied men to be in manufacturing. But, okay. Now I'll probably come, and I'm sorry, Saurabh and Tapan, not to put you in the spot, but very quickly, Saurabh, if you can talk a little bit about, how did partnerships enable you, and what do you think were some of the most valuable partnerships that you've had, whether it is with how Chengalpattu today has been able to create quite a sustainable, independent, ecosystem for inclusion. If you'd like to talk a little bit about the ERGs and the partnerships.
Sure. Thanks, Sandhya. I think I would talk about multiple partnerships. The first partnership was with Government Tamil Nadu, that the MOU that we signed had a commitment in place, right? So then after that, there was no looking back for Godrej or for me or for my team members. There's no question, right? There is a financial benefit to that. So that was one partnership. And there was a proactive follow-up also from Tamil Nadu government on what are you doing on hiring, what are you doing, not doing, is the progress good enough or not, etc., etc. The second one was bringing right partners, because we were setting up a new factory. We had the golden opportunity of designing the infrastructure from day zero. And those constraints we did not have, like Aditi mentioned about. So we then hired our partner, like L&T Technology Services was one of our partners who was designing the factory for us. We went through the PWD Act. We understood out of 21 disabilities, we would like to focus on 12 disabilities that we will design this factory for. So then we focused on those 12, and entire factory infrastructure has been designed in a manner that we can hire people with these 12 disabilities and they can do most of the work in the factory that is supposed to be done in the factory. So that is the benefit of the design stage. I think third one is partners like Atypical Advantage or other partners that we onboarded to be able to get the access to the pool that we wanted to hire from. Otherwise, we as organization did not have all the right, I would say, knowledge base or capabilities to do that. That was a third partnership. And fourth, I would say our own employees. Like for instance, we made a women ERG group. Similarly, many of our employees learned the sign language themselves, even without we investing into that. So many of them became the partner to create an equitable environment for people with disabilities beyond the infrastructure, but on the cultural piece. So for instance, when I went to factory after the factory operation started, I was so amazed to see that our factory managers, production managers, and a few of the officers were able to speak to some of the team members in sign language. It was just amazing to see that.
Tapan, would you like to add a few things?
So I'll talk about the continuity. Again, safety, it's always a first priority for Nestle. And we also had our accessibility audits done, and small things like hand wash height, doorknob height, stoppers, everything matters for accessibility. When we, after 6 months, when we wanted to expand, we went for the second batch, and this time I wanted the experience to be felt by someone else. So we sent our team members for interview so that that buy-in is always there. Also, initially we had them into simpler operations, and moving from one shift to second shift, moving from simple machine to a robot, running a robotic palletizers. So we did, again, safety as a first priority. We did a risk assessment moving from one to second shift. We provide employee buses. So what if in the late evening a bus is missed by a deaf person? How will the communication happen? So entire risk assessment was done, and only once we were confident about it, we put them into second shift. The other part is to truly sustain inclusion. For a while, we gave a break to our sign language interpreter, and let's see how it goes. And it was a intentional practice done, and it went well actually. It created that natural conversations among people. And a lot of help came from Atypical Advantage again for sign language interpretation. Even I went under the training of sign language interpretation.
Fantastic. And interestingly, our Chengalpattu factory also has, colleagues from the north. So a lot of them who speak Hindi don't speak Tamil, and a lot of them who speak Tamil, some from Kerala, some from Karnataka. But we're hoping that maybe the Indian Sign Language can be that one common language between all of them that can help them communicate effectively, right? And I thought maybe before we close, a couple of questions from the audience or any thoughts that anyone would like to share and
Before
ask.
that,
Yes.
I would just
Yes,
like to
yes.
share one small point. There is a DEI ISO 30415 certification, and Dharwad plant of ours, Tata Motors, is the first in India to get that certification.
So big round of applause.
Dharwad plant in Karnataka is the first plant to get this certification. Recently, they have got it.
Yes, yes. And I think it's also amazing how some of these ISO standards are evolving, right? And I think our journey after setting it up was to say, okay, how do we ensure that this sustains? Is to say integrate it with, audit standards that are slightly more integrated in nature. So congratulations on that one. very quickly over to the audience. If there are any questions, you can put your hand up and we can have the mic shared.
Hi, thank you for this. This is really phenomenal. We hear so much on the front end side of the corporate house, but to hear something from the manufacturing side is really, really interesting. I had a question on the acquisition of talent, right? We are talking about people in villages and districts where they are probably way more conservative. The families are way more conservative than what you would find in urban cities. And there is no evidence for people to really look at others who have been there, done that, like people who have really worked in manufacturing plants so that they are comfortable enough to share their family members and allow them to go and work in factories. How did you work with some of these ecosystems around, and what has been your experience been over the last 3 to 4 years that you've been doing this?
Thank you for the question. Well, I will answer and others can join. So as I mentioned, we invited families of people with disability as well as other employees. And once they came to factory and saw the safety and the security systems, we have CCTVs, everywhere in the plant. There are personalized safety evacuation emergency plans. Personal vibrators have been given to them. Initially we had given a buddy to each PWD candidate so that they are comfortable with the environment. Once we had, and for initial period it was only in general shift. Till the time we have a mutual confidence in each other's ways of working. So that once the confidence is in, then we engage and move to expansion. Did I answer your question?
What actually worked for us was, as I said, first batch was difficult to hire, and it was very difficult to get also people and have that confidence which you're talking about in the families. And we also invited families on the day of joining, where we showed them the entire plant, they visited the plant and everything. But apart from that, now what is helping us is the word of mouth. They are now the brand ambassadors. They are bringing CVs and giving it to us. We now don't have to go anywhere. So the moment we decided that we'll go for a next batch, I had, ma'am, we have, my friend want to come. And even the sign language interpreter, a lot of people are approaching her, saying that, we have our friends who are really willing to come. So I think the first batch was definitely difficult, which first beginning would be difficult for you also. But now we are also comfortable and they are also very comfortable. And I must say that their line managers are very happy. Putting first batch, even the line manager was scared and he was, apprehensive. But now other line managers where these people are not there, they are telling me, Aditi, why don't you hire another batch for me? So it is now a pull mechanism where, people themselves are asking. And these kids, they are also referring their friends because they have a good community amongst themselves. They know each other. So they are helping us to, get them on board. So I think that is helping now, word of mouth. Yeah.
That's a very good question, and it also for us exposed us, because I think it continues to be a challenge today for girls with disabilities who then get jobs. And I think we had an experience where, and Vineet and team actually joined us to do a couple of conversations with the parents. They were still very unsuccessful conversations, but it also exposed us to the work that continues to be required in the space. Because we felt that unless we work at a much more of a grassroots level with girls with disabilities as they're entering colleges and their families, teachers, right? Creating more awareness about what manufacturing roles actually hold. So the ability to kind of create a little bit of a triangular support ecosystem, which is with families, the students and their teachers, as well as organizations coming into the play, is what I'm hoping will make this space a lot better, and we'll also start seeing a little more better gender salience among persons with disabilities and employment. So thank you for that question.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Sharvari Petkar. I'm an occupational therapist. I wanted to know the corporates that are employing peoples with disability, how do they reach out to you? And is there a proper vocational training that has been done for the people who are getting hired?
Sorry, what was the first part of the question again?
How are the peoples with disability, how do they reach out to these companies?
Okay.
And secondly, is there a proper vocational training done for the jobs that they are applying for?
Sure. Vinny, do you want to take the first part of the question and then the rest?
So, see, most of the companies, what we see is one, there is a like a robust government data also around disability. So each of the state governments would have, let's say, Ministry of Social Justice. So that could be one good starting point. Then people also reach out to, colleges, schools, in general around, where people with disabilities would be there. So I like obviously, and what Aditi also mentioned, see, the word of mouth also plays a big role there. But having said that, just on the earlier discussion, see, girls with disability, what we have seen, 75 to 90% of the people who have been hired in manufacturing companies across companies are largely men. So we need to change that probably. Sandeep, what was the second question?
Vocational rehabilitation.
So what we have seen, at least for all the companies, because we might have worked with most of them, see, companies invest a lot in skilling for people with disabilities, and some might run their own programs specifically for people with disabilities even before hiring. So like one of the semiconductors company ran a 3-month intensive chip making program, and this was actually even for non-disabled people, but for people with disability probably the duration was extended. Same way, like GCPL and Tata Motors and Nivea and Nestle also run parallel programs before joining and after joining as such, so that people with disabilities are taken care. Like I'd already mentioned, like Nivea, when they hired women with disability, they ran additional technical programs because they wanted to get them to the same pace as other people in the cohort. So I think this is the need of the hour, and probably that is why the only way how we can integrate people with disabilities in the manufacturing ecosystem. Yeah.
I think one piece that we did, and was that we also were hiring a lot of women into the factory and others who had not had as much technical exposure, to the core areas of manufacturing that we required, right? So we had a partner who was actually training a very large set of employees, including persons with disabilities. The extension that we made to that was to make sure that it's accessible, inclusive, and all of that. So I would say that our technical program also ran more like a kind of a common program for those who didn't come with that background. But we've had a lot of colleagues who've come with experience, and we've been able to deploy them directly.
Okay. One more thing, the technical programs that are run, are they very equivalent to the job demands that they are applying for? Is it equivalent to the function that they have to perform?
See, primarily, we focus a lot on their skilling, as we also said, and we run specific programs for them. So we are also investing on them. So for example, we are hiring 12th pass, and we are now investing on them for diploma programs. We have enrolled them. We as an organization, we are paying for their diploma program. So we are skilling them, we are supporting them in higher educations, and after completing their diploma, we'll also enroll them in BTech programs. So those kind of things we are doing as an organization. If you ask specifically, have we designed something? Nothing like that. But we have extended our training duration, and as I said, it's a journey, so we are also learning, and every time we enhance our training modules also, which can be designed in such a way that we can train them.
So like most of these companies would have, let's say, accessible sign language content integrated, which was not there earlier, and they would have put that in their module like any other module, I would say. But the training and especially the technical training largely remains the same. Sometimes they might probably tweak with the duration.
I've got like the signal from my boss. I know there's one more question, if that's okay. We can also catch up right after the panel. We're all going to be around here. I'm also just generating this commitment on behalf of all of you. But we're going to be around. I know we'll have to end the segment now because we also have a very exciting thing to unveil with all of you.
Namaste, myself Manoj Kumar Borse. I am from the Saptarshi Foundation. We have developed India's first one-stop solution to provide end-to-end handholding support for the person with disabilities and their families. My question for Vinit sir. Vinit sir, आपके लिए मेरा सवाल है कि आज इंडस्ट्री में डिमांड आती है और वो बेनिफिशियरी जो भी कैंडिडेट है वो ढूंढने में हम लग जाते हैं सारे मिलके. ओके, क्या ऐसी व्यवस्था इस देश में निर्माण हो सकती है कि जो कैंडिडेट है, जो पीडब्ल्यूडी है, वो जिस स्थिति में हमारे पास आए उस स्थिति में उसको आगे लेके जाने के लिए हम एक इकोसिस्टम व्यवस्था क्रिएट करें? थैंक यू.
Yeah, no, that is what most of the people are trying. I think Ira also mentioned about the strength-based approach. See, each of these disability cohorts might have their own strengths. So could we do that? I think, for example, things are changing for a lot of disabilities and we need to work in a couple of other disabilities where probably meaningful employment at scale has still not been done. Let's say for people with severe locomotor disability or people on the autism spectrum. So yeah, I completely agree to that, but we are getting there. Probably the pace might be slower.
Thank you, and I think that brings me to the end of this panel conversation. So, yeah, thank you so much to all of you for joining us, and I think being so open in sharing your stories, learnings, and the journey.
Thank you so much, Sandhya, and thank you so much to the panelists. It's really heartwarming when we think about disability inclusion initiatives beyond the DEI teams and actually see functional leaders and functional teams take ownership and make things happen. I think this is the most sustainable way of making sure that inclusion happens. We would now like to present a token of our appreciation to the panelists. Now, I'd like Vineet to hang back. We are still not done with Vineet. So now that we've heard all the amazing work that all the panelists are doing, I would like to introduce Vineet Saraiwala quickly again, the co-founder of Atypical Advantage. They have worked with Integrative Solutions, a circular economy initiative that leverages grassroots insights to benefit governments, NGOs, and organizations. They've together worked on a toolkit that maps out the inclusion journeys of various companies. And I would like to invite Vineet now to share a little bit about this toolkit.
The journey started probably 3 years back when we realized that people with disabilities are negligible in the manufacturing ecosystem. And what could we do about that? You would remember Aditi saying that I wish there would be some book around the best practices of different companies as such. So we are right now working with 12 plus manufacturing plants in India. I know it's still less, like from 0 to 12. I wish thousands of manufacturing plants in our country come up to employ people with disabilities. And when that happens, probably this would be the day we'll all remember to snowball, because a conversation like this never happens, right? Manufacturing and people with disabilities. Because a lot of times people with disabilities would go for back-end warehouse jobs. You would have already seen the speakers actually talking about how people with disabilities are deployed at shop floor, lines, and so on. So what we have done is, try to map on some of these learnings from each of these companies, be it a Nestle, Nivea, Tata Motors, and put that into like some of the best practices in terms of safety, productivity, attrition, what different companies have done. So in fact, this is open source. There's a QR. You can actually just scan the QR and look at it. And probably there is a 12-step process which most of the companies have followed to hire people with disabilities. And all of these companies and their teams, including people with disabilities, senior leaders have participated. So go have a look. This is open source. And yeah, snowball this so that more and more manufacturing companies start adopting this to hire more people with disabilities, because manufacturing is more sustainable And I think a lot of technical know-how needs to be there. So this just covers some of the best learnings of each of these companies. So go and have a look. And yeah, thanks. There are some copies of this book also. So I think, yeah, have a look whenever you have time. And I would like to invite on stage all the participating companies, Aditi, Tapan, Jagdish, Sumit, Sandhya, and D. Parmesh, as such, Preetam, Amrita, if you are there. There's a lot of effort gone in compiling this, almost 4 months of hard work. So go have a look, read it.
Thank you so much, Vineet, and thank you to all the companies. I think this is incredible work, and the fact that you're sharing all of this information means that it'll snowball, hopefully, the way we all hope it would. So now, as we come to the conclusion of this segment, it's really interesting for me to think about this. The fact that, you know, inclusion is just so much more than just talent and hiring. Of course, it begins at talent and hiring. We need to make sure that the right people are in the right roles. But then, if you think about it, for a business, as Sudhir pointed out, people with disabilities are increasingly becoming a much larger cohort of people who have money to spend, people who are consumers who are ready to buy products. Now it's on us, the companies, to make sure that we deliver these products. It's on us to make sure that there are FMCG products made by PWDs being delivered on trucks made by PWDs, driven by drivers who eat food that's made by PWDs and use products made by PWDs. And you know what? That future is not very far beyond. In fact, it's almost here right now. And as products and services become more accessible, as more people get employed, this consumer base will only grow and it will become more lucrative for companies like us to cater to. This is a virtuous circle of inclusion, and I'm so excited that this is happening right now. In fact, it has the potential to really take society forward. It has potential to boost the economy and to make the quality of life better for everyone. Now, isn't that worth fighting for? Yes. All right. So, with that, we come to the conclusion of this segment. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, but do be back because there's a lot more in store. We have a session on neurodiversifying work in India, and we also have how accessible technology is changing work for everyone. And of course, no great session is complete without AI, so we have some of that as well. So a quick 5-minute break, and right outside we have a stall set up by Carmen, which has wonderful products made by persons with intellectual disabilities. Do check them out. And quickly, before I conclude, you'll have, I'm sure most of you know, a session like this takes a lot of effort and a lot of planning. A lot has gone into this. And so I'd first like to thank Atypical Advantage, our partners in this event, also for the wonderful giveaways. I think it's been incredible working with Vineet and team. I'd also like to thank all the speakers and the panelists who have generously shared their insights. I'd like to thank the allies who've been with us throughout this journey and who have supported all the initiatives. Madhu, our sign language interpreter. And of course, to our admin, security, photography, and catering teams for making the event smooth. And of course, how can I forget, a huge, huge thank you to the DEI team, GCPL DEI team, Sandhya, Priyanka, Jinal, Shashank, all the other DEI teams of Godrej Industries Group, and of course, my favorites, the Godrej DEI Lab team, and all the other HR and manufacturing teams. Thank you so much for your work.
Welcome back, everyone. How's everyone feeling? I'm Pulakita Maker from the Godrej DEI Lab. We hope you're refreshed because we have an exciting evening coming for you. Today has been a day that all of us at the lab have been dreaming for days. We began thinking of the idea for an Assistive Tech Conference When we met Prateek Madhav of Assistive Tech Foundation and Arman Ali from the National Center for Promotion of Employment for Disabled People last November, when they both came to visit us at Godrej 1. Since then, our teams have been tirelessly working on the exhibitions, the panels, and the pop-up booths you see today. It has been wonderful, as always, to bring this behemoth of a vision to life with some of our dearest friends from Godrej Capital, Godrej Properties, Godrej Consumer Products, our Godrej AI Lab, corporate IT team, as well as external partners like NCPDP, ATF, Access for All, and Microsoft. Can we please have a big round of applause for all of them? Speaking of Access for All, they're celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. Siddhant and team, we are so grateful for all the amazing work you have done for us at Godrej here and for disability inclusion around the world. A round of applause for them as well. Before we begin, I would like to go over the agenda for the evening. We will begin with a presentation by Paras Arora on neurodiversifying workplaces in India, followed by a panel, India's Accessible Future, in collaboration with Godrej Capital. After the panel, we will be launching Godrej Eva, a brand new voice-enabled browser extension developed by the ingenious team at our Godrej AI lab. We will conclude the evening with a special address from our lab's head, Parmesh Shahani. Let's get started. Our first speaker for the evening is Paras Arora. They're a research scholar at Stanford University. Their work explores how employment preparedness and vocational training programs in urban India create accessible environments for autistic adults. Welcome, Paras. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Pullo. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is a privilege and honor to be invited by the Godrej DEI Lab to be part of the first Assistive Tech Conference, and I hope that it's first of many. My name is Paras. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm currently a PhD candidate in anthropology at Stanford University. Unfortunately, I don't work on tech, but we're going to figure this out together. I work on and with human relationships and the power of reorienting these relationships to make more inclusive workplaces for neurodivergent individuals, right? For so long, we have been discussing PWD as a broad category of people, and now I want to shift our focus specifically to the concerns of autistic people in particular and neurodivergent individuals at large. Next slide, please. Great. So the workplaces in India at the current moment are going through a rapid transformation. Not to sound too candid, but recently a report came out that said that in India, we rank second globally when it comes to office romances. I know HR is in the room, so I'm not passing a normative judgment, but workplaces that we imagine to be as a separate part of our life are actually often the spaces where we might find a loved one. This is a space where relationships prosper, community emerges, right? Now imagine if you are somebody who experiences certain emotions so strongly that you can't really identify them. Imagine that you are experiencing certain sensations so strongly that you can't really process them, and you also find it difficult to communicate in language with people about some of these experiences. That is the experiences of many autistic individuals like myself and my sibling, which I hope to highlight, and how workplaces can be made more accessible through very small steps that can happen at a relational level. So I have very limited time, so I'll be focusing on two core areas. Next slide, please. This is the focus of my research. How do neurodivergent individuals move through life and become adults? But specifically, how do they embrace work opportunities? Next slide, please. So the first thing that stands out is the use, and somebody asked a question in the last panel, vocational training. Vocational training is perhaps the first space when many neurodivergent people find a community beyond home. If you have been stuck at home, you have been grown out of the special education system, you don't have friends, right? So you might go into a workplace directly thinking that this is an extension of family. And there have been cases where prevention of sexual harassment or boundary crossing has been used to fire neurodivergent individuals when they didn't entirely understand the concepts of some of these boundaries. So vocational training centers are emerging as transitionary and sheltered work environments whereby they can learn what does it mean to be related to multiple kinds of people at the same time. So one of the NGOs in Delhi named Action for Autism has come up with a relationship chart circle. You can see it on the right-hand side. Can we go back? Yes, back again. Yes, so I'll describe it as best as I can. So one of the first things that vocational trainers do with neurodivergent individuals is they list down who all are in your family, in your relative circles, in your colleagues, in your friends, in your community, and who are strangers. These are color-coded communities, and you learn how to behave, communicate, and relate with these people differently. For autistic people in particular, it's very, very important for us to get visual cues, and more importantly, clear communicative directives about what it means to relate with other people. You need to know whom to contact on WhatsApp at what time. This clarity can make sure that we have clear expectations when we go into a workplace. Now, while this work of facilitating exposure of neurodivergent people to workplaces is important, many neurodivergent people have actually complained to me saying, as it says on the slide, colleague to theek hai, par mera koi friend nahi hai. They often say that, I understand that a colleague is different from a friend, and I will not text my colleague again and again. I will try to find a friend, but finding friends is very hard. So I think one very important relational aspect of neurodiversifying the workplace is having patience. Patience for neurodivergent people to find more and more active members in this relationship circle. Because for a lot of neurodivergent people, family is everything. But the moment they come to workplace, they get to explore all of those things that we all cherish to in our lives, right? Next slide, please. So relationship circle is perhaps one tool that organizations are developing. The other is having a very structured word format, whereby the structured word is communicated in a multimodal manner. So not just asking somebody to submit a file at a particular time, but actually laying down what exactly are the work tasks with a clear direction as to when one has to clean their desk, when they might take a break. As you can see, perhaps on the right-hand side, and I'll describe it verbally, there is a smiley face which might depict as to what kind of a mood you're in. There's a language and volume meter as to at what volume can you speak in this setting, because sometimes autistic people experience echolalia. They might echo the voice of somebody in an unaware manner. And finally, there are visual signs to ask for help. Now, these are small tools that are used in vocational training centers. But if autistic people and neurodivergent people make it to workplaces, we should be open to embracing these tools as facilitative tools in order to actually open up workspaces to not just neurodivergent people, but people who might find communication itself anxiety-provoking, right? And what's also particularly crucial for us to remember here is that, next slide, please. What is our role as industry leaders? One way, of course, is to hire neurodivergent talent. That's obviously very important. But we must remember that a majority of neurodivergent people might not ever make it to the workplaces that we are seeking equality in. They might stay for a long period of time in transitionary work environments, in sheltered work environments. So we must treat vocational training centers as mini DEI labs, which we collaborate with, where they are doing innovative work of bringing in neurodivergent people into the fold of sociality and learn with them and collaborate with them and enter into contractual engagements with them. Because their lived experience and insights are actually very helpful lessons to make universal design possible for workplaces that we all work in. Finally, this is the next slide, please. This is the Instagram page that I run for my research. Feel free to follow it. There is no time for a Q&A. It was a lightning talk, but I look forward to connecting with all of you afterwards. And I hope that the road towards neuro-inclusion, which is a long one, we can be on it together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paras. That was such an insightful presentation. You have given us so much to think about, making our workplaces inclusive for neurodivergent people, and we're all taking back notes to our office. For many people with disabilities around the world, technology is a lifeline. It's what makes us employable, makes our everyday lives easier, and helps us be excellent in all aspects of our life. However, assistive tech still remains a niche. With our panel, India's Accessible Futures, we wanted to take this idea of assistive tech and use it to find solutions and innovations in the larger conversation on disability inclusion, particularly in the workplace. I would now like to invite the panelists on stage. Panelists, please allow me to introduce you before you join us. Our first panelist is Arman Ali from the National Center for Promotion of Employment for Disabled People. Arman is one of India's leading disability rights advocates with over 2 decades of impact. We're so happy to have you here, Arman. Next, we're glad to have Chahat, who heads programs and research At Assistive Tech Foundation, Chahat brings multidisciplinary expertise in psychology, marketing, and economics to the assistive technology space. Welcome, Chahat. Next, we have Manasi Joshi, whom we've had the pleasure to host earlier this year at the lab. Manasi is a world champion para badminton player and has been ranked #1 globally in the SL3 category in 2022. Always great to have you with us, Manasi. Our next panelist is Professor Mukta Kulkarni. She is Professor and Dean's Programs at the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, where she is also the chairperson at the Office of International Affairs. We at the lab have been ardent fans of your academic work, Professor Mukta, so welcome. Moderating this panel is Godrej Capital's Chief Human Resources Officer, Bhavya Misra. Bhavya brings nearly 2 decades of HR experience across technology, FMCG, and retail. Note for audiences, for this panel, we won't be able to do a Q&A session, but our panelists would be available to mingle after the event. Over to you, Bhavya.
Thank you so much, and really privileged to be a part of this panel and moderating all of you. Let's, I think, dig in since we're right at the end of the day. So I think we started thinking about this conference when Pratik, the founder of ATF, was here, and Parmesh, him, myself, Myra, we were talking about assistive technology. And I think, it's a very critical topic, but one that we don't often talk about actually within corporations, in important institutions when we talk about disability. So, possibly the best way to start is that why now? Why is it an important topic for us to talk about today? Why here and why now? Would you want to start?
Yeah, I thought, I'll take cues from the other panelists and answer, but you came straight to me. Great. Why now? You're saying why now and why are we talking about it now? It's because I personally think that people with disability, more than ever, and particularly in India, India being a young country, we are able to articulate our thoughts. We are able to explore. We are no longer just listening to people. We are able to be a part of a decision-making conversation. Though we don't have a seat on the table, but we are using various means to voice our concern. There is growing awareness about assistive technology, particularly because of the myth that it can fix the disabled person. It doesn't fix the disabled person. It creates a level playing field. It's a bridge between my capability and the task that I have to do, whether I have to be a part of an education institution or a workforce or a social life, and so on and so forth. We don't have the environment which really supports the assistive tech that we need, whether it is about affordability, whether it is about the ecosystem which you need to make everything work. And it's been largely been discussion globally also, the global south in particular in the last 5-6 years. And there has been a lot more focus because you cannot retrofit the whole world. You cannot retrofit India for that example, but you cannot compromise on accessibility now that accessibility has been looked at as a fundamental right for people with disability, particularly in India. And in next 5 years, there's a lot of change that is going to happen, in particularly to do with accessibility, and not limited to a ramp anymore. So, and to fix that problem and to bring people with disability at par with all citizens of this country, we need to look at AT, and that's how the noise.
So now is the right time. And I remember a few years back when I started reading about it, one of the things I realized, and possibly it's obvious, but for people without disability, technology makes things easier. But for people with disabilities, technology makes things possible. And so it's really like center of plate, and it is a conversation we should be having. So Chahat, just moving to you with the next question. As we start these conversations, and as someone who's in the center of them, right, Assistive Foundation is working with organizations who are building these technologies, incubating them. What do you believe are some of the real barriers that we face?
Yeah, I think it's definitely multifold, but the first thing that comes to mind is the mindset inertia, right? I think I would like to use the word inertia because it's actually that led. we always, when we talk about assistive technology, it has a connotation that it's fixing a functional deficit. So for an individual who has a disability, it's kind of doing that. But what it actually does is it's addressing a barrier that the system has. So it's filling that gap. So I think probably when we try to look at it from a disability first point of view, it becomes a good thing to have. But when we try to look at it from a system barrier point of view, it becomes a necessity. Because for all of us, I think if we see the evolvement, and there's an exhibition as well, the glasses for the longest time was an assistive technology aid, right? And I think just the sheer way the screen is there, but if I display something on my mobile right now, all of them won't be able to see it. So I think when we start changing the view of assistive technology, it gets better. And apart from that, further, I think a layered view on the policies, volatility around our systems and stuff is where I feel that are the barriers we need to look. But essentially, it all comes down to the mindset shift.
Thank you. Thanks. So opening up our minds to that. Mansi, with you, one question that we'd love to hear from you about is that what does user-centric designing as a process look like? How do we get persons with disability to be very much a part of designing assistive tech so that it is more usable, more friendly for them?
So I use an artificial leg for my day-to-day mobility, and I don't, like, there was a time when I used to put a stocking over it, which would make my leg look exactly like my right one. And that was a look and feel of it. So as a user also, as an end user, a lot of time we want to be seen as just as able as we were. Like I happened to have met with an accident and I happened to lose a leg. But then there was this time when I felt as if, oh, I don't want to look disabled. And as a user, that was my #1 priority, because by that time I had learned the art of walking with a prosthetic. So at one point I was walking just like a normal, I had a normal gait pattern. Now I limp a little, but at one point I was like walking very nicely. And as a user, I feel this ability to replicate what you have lost is one of the most important thing. And it's, as an end user, we understand it fully. Only when we are able to give the best, like if we are able to get the best of what we have as humans, we are able to replicate and create those technologies for the end users like me, then the innovation has reached to the next level. Now if you ask me, have we reached there? I still feel no, because the ankles that I use, they don't give me the 100% ankle mobility that we as people have. Knee does have that ability to flex, but my ankles, they're still way beyond. Like it will take generation, maybe next generation, for me to be able to walk with a very able ankle. Even in the field of sports, I feel as an end user, a lot of innovation is still pending. We have been just able to create the first basic prosthetic technology to walk, but as a sport person and a badminton player, I feel I'm not able to use a knee because my knee will buckle as when I move back, and badminton requires a backward motion. And I feel technology, definitely it's changing, it is evolving, but still it will take a lot of time, and that is why we need end users at the end, actually at the beginning of creating those technologies, and then only we'll be able to create all the humanoids that we all are aiming to see everywhere. I think this is just the beginning.
Thank you so much. Arman, would you want to add to this? Just how do we get the users and build assistive technology with persons with disability and not just for them?
No, I think it's very essential. It's for example, you cannot have a straight jacket approach towards anything. Like all of us wear and use so many products and services. Even we have the ringtones on our phones are based on, some people like to keep it silent. So how do you make a wheelchair which fits everybody? Like you buy it in bulk and distribute it. It's something very personal and not be a part of a populist scheme, right? You know, that whether you get some scheme from the government and you distribute 1,000 wheelchair or 1,000 prosthetics and 1,000 hearing aid and so on, or from a CSR funding. I think it's very important. It is the wheelchair that I use and the wheelchair somebody else is using, we will not be able to exchange. Even if you want to use it for, a short distance, it's very uncomfortable. I don't think people understand that. And it's like very personal. It has to be designed according to your lifestyle, your need, whether you need it for personal mobility or to participate in sports or to, and what is the distance you have to travel. All that discussion isn't here in our country. It is still looked at as a populist scheme, as a CSR activity, and where people with disability also don't understand that they need to have a choice. And that's the tragedy of it. Because being apologetic about being disabled needs to change before you get to be part of a discussion, to be part of a AT which is built around you. So I think for people with disability, I think they need to get control of themselves, get a little more organized, understand their need, and then engage.
Yeah, so people with disability need to be a part of the process, and for sure we need a lot of funding, attention, right policies. So with that, moving to you, how do we make a business case for this to make it investable, to make a good pitch, to say that this is critical, this is center of plate, and we must do this?
So to me, it's not about making something for someone else. It's making something for everybody. I will go back to what Chahat said in terms of eyeglasses. Back in the day, as you correctly pointed out, this was a big solution. Today, so many of us are wearing glasses. So it has to be normalized. I remember, I think Chahat, maybe you were there in IIM Bangalore when we did this. The first time I saw it, this was several years ago, but I saw a watch that vibrates. And somebody that I know is deaf. My co-authors are deafened people. And they said, well, how am I going to get up for the meeting? I have to wear a watch that sort of shakes and then, my hand moves. And I thought that was such a fantastic solution, not for my co-author who happens to be deafened. He became deaf at age 25. It's a solution for everybody. I could wear a watch that shakes and get up in the morning. And so many of us today have those watches. So to me, the way to make a business case is not to say that it is for somebody else, it is for all of us. And once we normalize this notion of assistive technology or assistive solutions, that becomes more mainstream.
Thanks. Mansi, do you want to add to that? How do we make a business case?
So today when I was going around in the afternoon seeing all the exhibitions, I saw this, there is this gazing thing where you can type, you can communicate with somebody on the other side, maybe through phone or from through a call or something, and you can type by just gazing. Now, Kathy over here, she pointed, it's like reading my mind. I'm looking at it and it's actually reading my mind. It's as exotic as that. And so technology, which caters to all, as ma'am rightly said here, catering to all. Like when we say the subtitles, which we are like, we love, I don't see any movies without subtitles, were previously created for people who had hearing impairment. So when we have these technologies, and when I say this gazing technology, which we are able to see here at the conference, this technology will definitely be used in future, and some new solutions will be created for everyone around us. But I feel when we create technology for one particular community, I think it can be used by everyone. That is also one way to look at it. And having us as end users definitely gives us a higher power in that, in asking for those technologies. So I think change starts from here.
Awesome. That's a great segue to my last question, actually, to all of you. And I'm going to take everybody's views on that one, which is that this panel is called India's Accessible Futures, right? And obviously using technology. And early on, we were, Parmesh and I were talking outside, and he was saying that today has been such a beautiful day. Look at all of the people who've come here, and how can we make every day like this, right? So what do you imagine for this, specifically the role of assistive tech? as we move forward in this area. Arman, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I think the future, I think India can provide solution for the entire world when it comes to assistive technology. We have that ecosystem to be created. That's a task at hand, I would say. And being a young country, we can provide solution for disability to the whole world for 1 billion people. I think that's the future.
Thank you. Chahat?
Yeah, I think probably integrating this with the economy as well, right? I think because we are at a corporate setup right now, employment has been a topic. So where I think we have been working on assistive technologies, how do we look at it beyond that? So when it comes to workplace inclusion and things around that, how do we use assistive technology? And again, going back to your previous question about the business case, how do we not just make technologies for persons with disabilities, but also kind of adapt the environment around that? So one, I would say just an example would be, we were working with someone who were given an assistive technology aid and they were able to get back into the workforce. But I think then we realized that it's not just tech enablement of the person with disability, but it's also an enablement of the workflow as well. And how do you redesign the job? So I think for me, it's looking forward and seeing how do you widespread assistive technology and again make it a choice. I mean, I may not have to have a disability to choose an assistive aid, right? The word assistive here is a key word that, okay, I mean, I just don't want to walk and I can take a ramp and things around that. So how do we make it more universal for all, and how do we leverage things like consumerism and capitalism for the good? I mean, we have been discussing and debating if it's good or not, but I think if we make it a business case and if we make it for all, I think these are our levers that can take us to newer heights.
Thank you, Chahat. Mansi?
I think I would like to answer this question as a sports person first, because we just have won the bid for Commonwealth Games for Ahmedabad in 2030, and Commonwealth Games again has able-bodied as well as para Commonwealth Games together, and we have also been bidding for the next Olympics for 2036 in Ahmedabad, which again Olympics comes with Paralympics. When I see sports is so inclusive because you get to see, I mean, the integration that we can learn from sports is what we can be doing at our workplaces also. It's able-bodied sports happening together with para sports, and it's it's just same 100 meters run or 400 meters run or 200 meters run, but we are all doing it in our own special way. Somebody in able sport is running and somebody in para sports is driving their wheelchair at the best possible speed. And that is the human, it is beyond human capabilities. We are training for that as an athlete. And I see that is the kind of future, right? I still remember when I was in Paris last year, and we were participating. I mean, for me, that was one of my first big multi-sport event where people from multiple countries were participating. And one thing which I really enjoyed about it was how inclusive it was. Everybody was celebrating their own medals, participation, or just being present at the venue, moving around with their guide dogs, moving around with their wheelchairs, with their prosthetics, taking help of a buggy, or just moving around on their own. And 80% were moving on their own with their own aids. And I felt as if this is the kind of city I want to live in, which is so accessible. That was a village, Paralympic village. Everybody were happy, people were singing, celebrating, and that gave me I mean, it was like a utopian town for me, but actually it existed at that moment. And I felt that is the future. And when we have such conferences and when we talk about these kind of futures that we want to be a part of, I think it gives us that imagination also. It gives us an ability to imagine that, oh, everything this is possible. We all are here to live the best possible lives. And accessibility is something which is right now missing because we designed our cities, we designed our workplaces, actually our ideas around only 60% of the population. But what happens to the 40% who are young, who are old, or who happen to have a disability? We have not done, and that's why we are having these conversations right now. But let us all cater to that 100% that we all want to be a part of.
Wow, that was really inspiring and such a beautiful vision. Thank you for sharing that, Mukta.
All right, apart from what all of them have mentioned, another way to push the business case for accessibility, if you cannot do it on your own, find an energizer and put your weight behind them. I'll give you a concrete example of this, which you can also look up on YouTube. Now imagine, and I'll tell you the company later, but imagine you walk into a hotel, and nowadays it is not so much a problem because they write in very big letters shampoo, conditioner. Now it's become quite big. But earlier there were tiny bottles, if you remember. And now one person who happens to work for a large FMCG company, she's blind. And she says, it's very good you have included me. I'm so very happy to work here. I love it here. But our products are not accessible. I cannot see if I'm using a shampoo or a conditioner or a lotion bottle. And that's not just true for me, it's true for many people. Like, I can't see without glasses really well. I can't read small print. So she said, you've got to do this. And they said, would you want to do this for us? And she becomes the rally point, and people work with her. And this happens to be Procter and Gamble, and this happens to be Herbal Essences, and they create tactile bottles. And they said, do you want to write Braille on it? She said, no, who reads Braille? Not everybody reads Braille. But you can do simple stuff. Shampoo comes first, you put a dot or a dash. Conditioner comes next, you put 2 dots or 2 dashes. And such a simple, elegant solution. Now they have done it also with oil of Olay, the cover of it, and small things like that. And that's such a ripple effect. You've included the person, she's making money, she's paying taxes. You've now included multiple customers, not just her, but people like her, people like me, people like us who can read bottles better just by touching them. So that's another way, I think, to create a ripple effect in the economy and so forth.
Thank you so much. Some excellent examples of innovation, and it always comes from a very small insight and small changes that you can make to fundamental habits. I think personally for me, this journey of understanding persons with disabilities started 18 years back in a factory here, a bottling plant here in Bombay, when we tried to hire speech and hearing impaired individuals on our line at that time, and there wasn't that much conversation. And so much since then has changed, especially the role that technology has played to enable different types of disabilities, understanding the level of those disabilities, and such a great learning and pleasure it has been. I think on just India's accessible futures, I will quote something that our CEO at GC, Manish, often says, which is that if not now, then when, and if not us, then who? I think the responsibility lies on us to pick up and do what we can from here on. So I think we at Godrej are going to take a lead, are taking a lead, but will continue to do work in this area. And thank you for all of you for being part of this lovely panel and for the lovely discussion, and also the audience who stuck around for the whole day. Thank you for your patience. We had a great time. Thank you so much.
The words assistive tech might conjure up images of complex futuristic gadgets. But what if we told you that most of us have used a simple assistive tech device or seen someone we love use it? Any guesses what it is? It's right in front of our noses. There are spectacles. So many of us wear glasses, which are a great everyday example of what simple inclusion can look like. More innovation like this means more inclusion. And so in keeping with that spirit, we're proud to launch Godrej EVA, an AI built by the Godrej AI Lab that allows users to navigate any web page using just their voice. To tell us more about it, I request Shirin Shinde, lead Godrej AI Lab, to join us on stage.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the energy. Thank you for the excitement. We are all equally excited to contribute to this. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Shirin. I lead the Godrej AI Lab. We are a central AI function, and we are trying to drive the AI charter throughout the group companies. Just for everybody who's coming from outside, we're building practical, scalable, and sustainable solutions for all our group companies. We are really excited today because we are this is a very exciting day for us. We are contributing to such an important and impactful charter, the Assistive Tech Charter. It's a very proud moment for us as we launch Godrej DEI. I'm sure you guys have already seen the demo video. To quickly tell you a bit more about the product, it is a voice-enabled agentic AI web browser, which is completely built in-house by the indigenous team and a very smart AI lab team. Ame, Durga, Meet, Savio. So it's completely in-house built, and we are going live today. It is going to make web accessible for the ones who can't, just with voice commands. And I'm sure you've seen the video. It's a natural language product, very much in guardrails and safe, and we plan to give it to everybody who needs it. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll come and install it on your devices. To mark this beautiful moment, I would like to call NBG, if you can just come, we'll just mark this moment with a nice picture. Manish, Burgess, Parmesh. Yes, Godrej DEI is live now. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. A very remarkable occasion for us, building something in-house for the Assistive Tech Charter. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone, for the support. Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much, Shirin. AI Lab team was so excited to see what Ava brings into the future. We have now arrived at the final part of the Assistive Tech Conference. But hopefully, this is just a beginning and not the end to conversations and newer forms of inclusion. To give us something to look forward to and to deliver the closing remarks, may I invite our lab's head, Parmesh Shahani, to the stage.
Thank you. Shirin, after that AI demo, our valuation just went up 100x. You add AI to anything. We now have an AI product at Godrej. Very good. So, hi, I'm Parmesh. It's now only on Godrejite, but soon it'll be for the world, and then, yeah, you may not even need to IPO. Okay, I'm Parmesh. Thank you so much for everyone in the audience for continuously and generously supporting our work throughout the years. We began the DI Lab some years ago, and it's been absolutely wonderful in serving as a catalyst for some of the incredible work which has been happening at the Godrej Industries Group. I just want to thank all the people who made this event possible. And just don't start leaving immediately, because we're going to continue these conversations in our lovely cafe next door. So we're going to take this evening ahead, and which is also why we didn't do, say, questions after Paras and only one question after this, because we want you to interact with all of us over some very ingeniously named snacks. So before that, lots of thanks to Godrej Capital, Godrej Properties, Godrej Consumer Products, AI Lab, Godrej Good and Green, Corporate IT, as well as all our external partners, NCPDP, ATF, Access for All, Microsoft. You can clap for all of them, because they've all worked very tirelessly to make this event as brilliant as it was. To all our speakers who've come here from all over the world, from Stanford, from Bangalore, from Vikhroli, thank you for bringing your insights into disability inclusion, and to all our exhibitors who've also come here from all over to bring your inventions to us at Godrej One. This is the first year of the Assistive Tech Conference here. We hope to make it an annual thing. We hope that it's going to become too big for Godrej One, and we will then be filling NSCI Dome, and then we will be filling, what is that concert space in Goregaon? Ness, yeah. And then, of course, we will take over like Bharat Mandapam and all those other things also. Whatever, the aim is that this is going to be huge and incredible. Not huge as in a Donald Trump way, but huge as in a incredible, meaningful, taking PWD, DI inclusion ahead kind of way as well. So thank you for being here. Remember, years later, when this is that huge, big thing, you all will all remember we were here at the first ever. So thank you. Any gratitude I express is incomplete without thanking the Godrej Industries Group leadership. Some of you are here today. Nisa, who is in a sense at DI Lab,
patron saint. All of you keep on encouraging us to reach new heights and keep on doing more all the time. Our goal, I just want to share some things with you. So our goal at Godrej is we want to be a fully, truly inclusive and fully accessible workplace for all our employees. So we want our colleagues with disabilities, both present and future, to feel completely at home. And I promise all of you that all of us at our lab and all our Godrej Industries Group companies are taking this seriously. This is our scorecard. We're, I think, maybe the only organization in India which publishes our DEI scorecard publicly online every year. We share everything we do with the world. So you can see in the scorecard, we have 292 employees with disabilities right now. We can clap for that. Although I think the fun will happen when we have 1,000. So we want to move towards that as well. These are employees who have shared that they happen to be persons with disabilities with us. Of course, we might have so many who are not sharing that, and we also want to shift. We want to be an organization in which someone who happens to be a person with disabilities is comfortable sharing that with us as well. But it's not just numbers, right? And what excites me so much is that all our companies are doing so much more in other things as well, and beyond just hiring, right? So you've already heard about Godrej Consumer Products efforts, about disability inclusion in manufacturing, at the amazing new factory in Tamil Nadu. Our friends at Godrej Property are doing amazing work under the Disable Me initiative, including the Disable Me Echo we have. And if you've not seen the exhibition upstairs, it's just one level up on the second floor. Go see it. It's brilliant. Godrej Capital is doing path-breaking work in disability inclusion as part of the Enable initiative. Godrej Chemicals welcomed its first branch of PWD employees at the Ambernath factory. So it's great fun, and we hope that every year, when we keep on doing this conference again and coming back to you, we will report more and more from our groups in terms of what we've done. Since we met Arman and Prateek last November, we've actually been meeting many phenomenal organizations working on assistive tech. Our lab and our group companies were very excited to go to Purple Fest earlier this year in Goa. During all these conversations, what stood out for us is just how revolutionary assistive tech is for disability inclusion, and how with just a little bit of assistive tech, people with disabilities can live independent, dignified, and fabulous lives as well. So our hope is to keep on building on this, to keep on being part of this ecosystem all around the country with other companies, with governments, with organizations like all of you in really building this together. And so we also want more persons with disabilities. We happen to have a booth right here, right now. If you happen to be a person with disabilities, or if you know someone who is a person with disabilities, we want you. We have set up an opportunities at Godrej booth outside. So please come and give us your resumes or tell us about this talent you have. We want you here. We'd rather you work. No, Arman, I mean, who will run your organization if you come? And you are already part of us anyway. Yeah, but we want you. So can the PEC and business impact teams raise their hands? They're there already. They're all in the booth. They're waiting. So please go. Now, if you happen to be a person without disabilities, I mean, go show up. But really, this is for PWD talent. But like, go show up. We will take, Chalo, Rashi is saying, if you're women, LGBTQ also come. Straight able-bodied men don't show up here now. No, we're inclusive here also. Chalo. Theek hai. Come. Come. Come hang out with us at the booth, and like essentially we want these numbers to go up. So we have to go to like 500, 600, 700, 800. Okay, very good. Now, we're going to show you a menu just so that you have everyone saw that's room number 10. Now, you can give other people's resumes also. Essentially, we want your talent, yeah? This is the menu for our snacks, which are going to be in the cafe next door as well. I want to thank the catering team from Elior and to Team Yummies, who gave us such yummy snacks for us. Harshad and team from JMD for doing some amazing event coverage. And of course, Madhu, our ISL interpreter, for signing. As we go and mingle over snacks, you can learn more about our DEI lab by following us on our website, social media, newsletter, and more. All the details are on the screen. Keep on following us and keep on coming back here. What are we going to do next? You never know, but we promise you it's going to be epic and fabulous, so follow us to know. Until now, if everyone can elegantly go to the cafe and continue conversations with all the panelists and with each other. Lots of love. See you again soon.